Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that means it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. I am, of course, on the road this week, as I am sure you can tell. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tom. It's Tom. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, friends. And before Vince jumps into it, yeah, y'all were waiting on me today. Sorry.
Yes,
it was. I will own this one. This was totally me.
Yes, this one is 100% your fault. To the point where you sent me a message, and you're like, "I'll be down in a minute," and then 10 minutes later, I was like, "Are you coming? Did you die?"
Yeah. I own this one. It was totally me. Sorry.
No, that's all right. So yeah, we all, as has been pointed out in the comments, everyone already knew and assumed that, Tom. So as I pointed out, I'm literally I wouldn't on Pacific time. Sure, I'm on Pacific time, hence why we moved this a little later. I'm at a conference. I've been doing stuff all day, and yet I was the one on time. So, Tom, you're comfortably at home.
I've been doing things all day. Yeah.
So obviously it's been a big, I haven't been home for ever, it feels like. So I don't, when we get to hobby time, it's going to be a short one for me.
Vince left Holy Havoc this weekend and just jumped on a plane and flew out to that conference. I have all of his miniatures. I have all of his board, all of his books, all of his stuff with me.
Yep. I just sent it home with you because there's nowhere else for it to go. I left and got on an airplane. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But at any rate, we've got a lot of news this week. And there's plenty to talk through. So Tom, let's kick it off, man, because this is going to be mainly
This is not Bailey's. This is Buffalo Trace Bourbon Cream. It's very different.
Okay. I saw it was in the comments. We had a big weekend at Holy Havoc. There's a lot of news. This is going to be mainly a catch-up show. Tom and I are going to wander through some topics. This is basically a Warhammer After Dark, a Warhammer Weekly After Dark episode. We're going to talk through Blood and Glory. We're going to talk through Holy Havoc. We're going to cover a lot of the news, all that kind of stuff. So there you go. Yep. So Tom, where are we beginning, man? Kick us off with the news. What do we got? You got that rumor engine hot and handy because it's a thing.
It is a thing. I'm looking for it.
While you're bringing it up, I will just say in advance, I'll make my call now. It's Slaanesh. There you go. Yep.
Weird.
Because, that's what it is.
Yeah, I heard some people saying, is it Daughters of Cain, Underworlds, Shades of Pyro Warband? No, this is just Slaanesh. This is Slaanesh. It's okay. It's allowed to be Slaanesh.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what part of that it is. Yeah. But I'm hoping it's some kind of Slaanesh mortal because this kind of looks like, as somebody pointed out in the comments, they jumped ahead of me, but I agree. Because it kind of looks like a humanish arm there. Yep. And as we've been talking about, when you read that Slaanesh description in the Age of Sigmar 2 book, which was clearly written at the time they would have been doing Slaanesh models, right? The mortals they describe worshiping Slaanesh are way different than what we think about, what Slaanesh mortals look like now, which are basically just the generic slaves to darkness. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm hoping we get that kind of thing where they have those bespoke elements. They talk about the dancers wearing, the human dancers wearing masks and wearing claws that make them look kind of like daemonettes, right? I love that idea. I hope to see. That would be amazing. Yes, please. The reason I say it looks like an arm is because it looks like there's a bicep above it, right? Clearly.
Sure. Looks like they've cut off their hand or whatever and put on a daemonette.
A pseudo daemonette claw. Yeah, something that represents that, which would go right along with the descriptions that were in the AOS 2 book for Slaanesh, and would also be a very Slaanesh thing to do. Of course, the mortals who worship them would cut off their own body parts to replace them with these mockeries of these things. Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I will say that I've made this observation before, when painting my my girls. I really think the shield arms for the Canary, actually, the shields themselves look like the daemonette claws.
They have this shape is what you're talking about. That's the similarity, right?
Yeah,
sure.
Yep. So I don't know. Just saying, looks similar. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for that because here's the thing: we already like our next piece of news probably is going to be to talk some about the reveals, or at some point we're going to talk about the Wrath and Rapture stuff. And so we know for a fact we're getting new Slaanesh models, right? No, that's been well known for a while, obviously. But the exact size of it has been up in the air, right?
Yep.
And my very strong hope is that this bodes that the release is bigger than we previously thought, which wouldn't be that crazy. Like Tzeentch got a fair amount of new stuff, right? And Nurgle didn't need it as much because a lot of that range was still new. Like they got a big bump during the end times, right? So it was kind of just more filling out a few things.
Yeah.
You know, Khorne obviously got an utter metric ton of models when when AOS launched, right? So Slaanesh is the only one that hasn't been touched ever, like ever since we started down this road, and not for years before. Right? Like the last new Slaanesh models were what, 2006 off the top of my head. So I mean, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not wrong.
I could be wrong on that, but I want to say the Daemonet recast and into their current form, and all of the chariots, which were at the same time, were 2006.
Yep.
So that sounds about right. I'm sure the comments will correct me if I'm wrong, but it's somewhere around there. So I mean, it's been more than a decade. It would make sense that we've got like a big release coming, and I am excited. But now's the time where you keep talking, Tom. Back to you in the studio.
Sure. Speaking of Slaanesh, we got some confirmations via the artwork of the, like, some of the rumor engines are the harp player. Like,
yeah.
Let's see if I have that image.
Well, the image is exactly that of the harp from the rumor engine, right? Like we saw the top part of that harp, and then that exact harpist showed up in the background of the Wrath and Rapture art.
Right.
It doesn't really take we don't need to call in Sherlock on this one. Like, sure. I put 2 and 2 together and figured out that yes, they did in fact paint the model that is being released that they showed you a piece of in the art of the product that's being released. Weird. So yeah. Interesting other things in that art besides the harpist is new Karnak. Which I'd be excited to see a new release of. We know we're getting new Flesh Hounds. Like obviously we saw the new Flesh Hounds, we saw the new Fiends.
Do you think Karnak will be an alternate build of the 5 hounds, or do you think it'll be something separate?
He could be an alternate build of the Champion Hound.
Right.
That would be the way to do it, right? Like if you've seen the Champion Hound in the pack, he has like a big ridge down his back, and he has big broad shoulders, right? Like he looks a little more musclier than the rest. So it could be that that's because you can attach a different front to him to make him Karnak, right? So you can either do Karnak or the Champion Dog. That'd be the easy way to do it. The cool part about that would be if you don't do that, then you probably have like 2 extra dog heads.
Yeah.
And as has been pointed out, back, I was on Warhammer TV with Ben and Martin back in June. And I said hashtag release the hounds and got that going. And now I'm happy to see it came to life. Yep. So I'm taking full credit for that one. You're welcome. There's no way those minis were made before I made that shout out. So I'm thrilled that they acted on our social movement.
It just explains the extreme uncomfortableness as you said that on Warhammer TV, and they're like,
Sure. Because they knew it was coming. Yes,
indeed. What else? So that we talked about Slaanesh. We had a video that dropped this last week, Blood and Glory. We'll talk about the Blood and Glory results here in a little bit, but more importantly, we had the release video. We got a glimpse of the promise that Moon Clan are indeed coming.
Yeah. They're the next battle. Then they're the next battle tome. So we know they're before, like Wrath and Rapture might happen, but nonetheless, we know the Moon Clan battle tome is before the Slaanesh release. Right. The Slaanesh book release.
We don't know when that is, but we do know that it's going to happen and that it's going to. So we still don't really have any models or any actual glimpse beyond the teaser video. So.
Yeah, I want to talk about that for a minute, like the general Blood and Glory reveals.
Yeah.
They could have shown more. I want to see them show more.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciated that teaser video. I appreciated what they showed for Wrath and Rapture. Like, there was cool stuff that they showed. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like a miss. Okay? Like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I would like to see them dig a little deeper. Like, I understand it's a marketing exercise. They don't want to give everything away, but they're really riding the line here too much on the cautious side.
Right.
Right?
They just have nothing
they need to, yeah, give us some meat, man. If it's coming that soon, just show the stuff. Like, I don't need everything, but show something. Like, I understand you're going to do a big series of reveals on the community page, but like, they're playing a little too close to the vest now.
Sure.
And they've done it 2 times in a row.
Yep.
Right? So I don't want to see that continue. Like, go back to giving us a real video. Show us models. Okay?
The daughter
give us like the
reveal should be the paradigm.
That's the template. Yes, that's correct. And I mean, LVO is our next time.
Right.
We'll see something.
Yep.
So that's January or whatever, right?
Right.
But I understand, like, well, and people might say, well, you saw the Fiends and the Flesh Hounds. Yeah, no, that's cool. I appreciate that. I really do. We had already seen the Fiend.
Right. So that was an actual reveal.
Yeah, like, and I know that wasn't an intentional spoiler. They didn't want that Fiend to be shared, and so they kind of reacted. But nonetheless, that happened.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, we gotta respond. Like, they add in the Harpist or show something about the Wrath and Rapture box set. Tell us something about what's going to be in it. Right. Like, give us a little more. So I want to see, like, they're playing a little too close to the vest. Again, not bad, just could be better. Right.
Yep.
And then we can all still argue about release dates and what all is going to be in there. And, you know, like, when the Daughters video came out, it didn't end the discussion.
Right.
Right. There was still so much more to talk about. The argument over even if that tail at the end was Marathi, which of course it was.
Or who was talking. Yes.
Right. That went on forever. Right.
Yep.
So I want to see them, like, they can foster more discussion and gain more. They don't do themselves any favors by playing too close to the vest.
Sure.
It makes us talk more if they share just a little more.
Just a little bit more. The counter argument is that we'd always want more. Like, just a little bit more is always more. Martin Orlando said that suggested that the LVO potentially is the Slaanesh is the likely reveal at LVO. What I'll say is this:
maybe
the meta thought of it. I think Slaanesh, God of Excess, like the Las Vegas Open, is the perfect reveal if they're going to make a video for it.
You're not wrong about that. That is a really good alignment. I hadn't considered that, but man, are you right? Like, where better to talk about Slaanesh than, like, literally a city built to be dedicated to her. Right. Like that. Yeah.
Yes, it is. So, like, man, if their marketing picks up on that, kudos to you for that LVO reveal. So, Martin, good call on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to imagine that by the time of LVO, MoonClan's already out. I would certainly hope so.
Yeah, I would expect MoonClan would be out by then as well. So,
do you want to talk about our thoughts on MoonClan real quick, Tom? We had a brief conversation about this last weekend. Like, there's a lot of people excited for MoonClan right now. So, do you want to do a segment of Vince and Tom's unpopular opinion?
Sure. That MoonClan will be probably like a 2-week release, and you'll probably get 6 kits.
Well, wow, you're way more hopeful than I am. I think it'll be like a 1-week release, basically nothing.
Between 3 and 6 kits. I think that you might get plastic squig herders. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's like a squig herder / squig rider dual kit, where you can, like, sub in the rider. So you buy 1 kit, you get 5 squigs and maybe riders, maybe not. And then maybe if you don't get the riders, you get them as herders or something, some type of, like, combined kit. You might get another hero or 2. But I don't think that we're going to have a lot of kits. You may get a new set of Mangler Squigs that double as, like, other type of combo kit or something. But I don't think we're going to get... I mean, maybe we'll get a lot of kits, but I think Vince and I are leaning on a more conservative approach to how many kits we're going to see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if literally all we got was a plastic Squigs box and like one other thing. Okay.
Yep.
Like I'm not like, again, it's the box. Obviously you've got the box, right? So the battle tome. That's what I meant.
Yep.
Obviously you got the tome, and that's doing a lot of the work here. But most of the range has already been moved over to white boxes. They're on rounds, you know.
Yeah.
Like I don't think they're going to turn that particular.
Right.
No, like that warband that is like the troll and the different weird stalactite squigs and stuff.
This time.
No, they're the denizens of like lower Shadespire in those tunnels. Like in their story, they're not a thing that lives out in the world. They're just like these weirdo mutations of the lower part of Shadespire.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Somebody.
I would expect this. The point is, I would expect this to be in line. It's going to be somewhere between LON, which got 0 kits, right, and Nurgle, which got like 2, 3. I don't even remember. Not many. The tree. The Puscoils, which were the champion in that, and what?
Nurgle, right? Puscoils, the 2 new heralds.
Oh yeah, that's right, the new heralds. Yeah, there you go.
And Guo.
Yeah, so I mean, now you'll get the endless spells. Like obviously they'll do the Moon Clan endless spells, right? So you're gonna get that.
You'll probably get to paint that moon if you want.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like, I'm. That's like I said. This is Vincent Tom's unpopular opinion segment. Here's my secondary opinion. It's going to be a terrible army to play against. Yeah. And here's what I mean by that. Like,
it will be what we call a feel bad army.
Right. I just suspect it'll be a feel bad army. Now, we're into the wild speculation. This isn't news. I'm sorry, Moon Clan players. I know there are many in the chat. I suspect that that army is going to be a horrible time to play against, just based on the components they've got to work with. It's going to be big hordes. Like when I think about how this could be designed, and I hope this isn't the case. I hope I am 100% wrong on this. Okay, so full.
We'll see if you are. You know, I don't think you probably are.
Yeah. So here's what I'll say. Here's my prediction that I hope is wrong. Okay. The army will be focused on big hordes and weak big hordes. And the way weak big hordes survive is by penalizing their enemies. So there'll be like nets, and there'll be things that pop out in front to interrupt charges. And there'll be
buffs and fanatics and
yeah. And like I talked about how they're all like the cool allegiance mechanic with the bad moon would be bad juju on other people's rolls, like negativing them, right? You're giving them the bad luck. So like taking away from other people's stuff, giving them minuses, giving them penalties.
Instead of setting your own die rolls, like Tzeentch setting enemy die rolls.
I don't know. You can do it in a ton of different ways. Like influencing luck is a thing that you can manifest in a lot of different ways, rules wise, right? And so if that is the direction they go, it will be a feel bad army. Right? Because it'll be an army full, it just gums up the board, and you get into combat with little goblins and can't really effectively kill them. Right? As they just penalize your army into the ground and everything just sits there.
Yeah, it's going to be sad.
Now, I hope that's not the case. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they surprise me. There's other fun ways you could go with this too. Okay? And by the way, which is like mad fanatics and crazy goblins and suicide goblins and stuff like that. I hope they do that. Like that is to say, that'll be a more interactive experience.
Right. But it probably won't be fun to play against. AS Coach, as Anthony, as you said, oh, that sounds great. Yeah, but it's a very like Plague Touched Nurgle experience.
Right. Like think to Plague Touched and think how much fun everybody had playing that. Like there are people who loved playing Plague Touched. My co-host, as an example, who loved giving everybody a bad time.
Right? I liked winning.
Which don't get me wrong, none of this is a judgment on their competitiveness. I think they're going to come ripping out of the gate, man. If they look anything like what I'm describing, they will be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, they will be competitive. There's no question about that.
Yeah, they've got all the makings to get there pretty fast. So, but anyways, time will tell. As I said, I hope I'm wrong. This has been Vincent Tom's unpopular opinion segment. Sorry.
Yep. No, it's probably true. I mean, I don't want it to be true, but it's probably true. Because I like Grotz. I'm a big fan.
One big win we didn't talk about would be how well they integrate the other Goblin forces into Bad Moon, right? Into the Moon Clan. If they have anything tighter than just allies, that'll be a real big win. I don't know that that'll happen. I'm just saying, like, if they do something fun with Spider Fang, like it could be as easy as like a battalion that lets you pull them in and turns them all into Moon Clan, right?
Sure.
And that would still be cool.
Be something as simple as like Beasts of Chaos-esque, where they have contingents within the Moon Clan structures.
Sure. Like, there's just, I hope we see something fun that gets the Dangler Destruction faction back in play.
Like, they could do something with Troggoths, like Fellwater or the Stone Troggoths, and they could do...
Yeah. Yep.
And Moon Clan, and I would love it. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we're all hopeful for that. Like, I think that will be a big win for the Destruction community if some of those old danglers have some way to get brought back in the fold. And I am hopeful for that. It doesn't need, like, at the same time, if it's not the case, then I hope they do them justice at some point in the future. I still contend that the Savage Spider Riders is a good enough concept to someday build into a whole army. Right? Like, I think it's got the gas in the engine to be a cool Savage Goblin force.
I hope they do a Savage Goblin force, but, you know, I stopped holding my breath 4 years ago.
No, I understand. It's not like, well, it's the year of destruction. And I mean, that was the other thing that was basically wrapped up in this Moon Clan, right? Is that they did confirm, as they've been saying, that 2019 is going to be the year of destruction in the same way that this was the year of death. Now, what exactly that translates to, does it mean that every release is destruction? No. Obviously not. But Death got, 2 books, big build-outs, obviously became very highly competitive. So yeah, I mean, if Destruction gets 2 solid releases next year, that's pretty good. Like, I think I would feel pretty good about that, right? Yep. Those could be spread out in a couple different ways.
Totally agree. We also got just as an aside, it's worth a mention, a 40K Warhammer Quest box game.
Yeah, the Blackstone Fortress reveal, which that was actually the right way to go. That I had no complaints about. Like, they showed the miniatures close up. They had all these great pictures, all these great individual elements. That was actually a really good reveal.
And they had like a lore video too about like the region, and yeah, like I'm in. Like I mean, I may not buy it right away, but it's something that I wouldn't mind adding to my collection.
Yeah. No, it was really good. Yep. There's a lot of miniatures in there that I'm pretty excited about that I'll probably pick up individually. There's a couple in there that would work pretty fantastically for AOS. That big priest dude, is pretty cool. That fat priest dude, he's pretty awesome. So it's just a cool box set. It's got like the miniatures across the board had a lot of good character. So I was happy to see them.
I don't disagree with that.
Yep.
Other news. What else do we have?
All right, so we talked about Wrath and Rapture. We talked about the new Slaanesh stuff coming. There was obviously also the other release from here was the Dark Oath, right? So we got to see the Dark Oath warband for Shadespire, which is like, don't they look like the most homeless of all of the warbands? Like, they're just wearing like tattered rags and stuff. But they're a pretty Marmite warband, I think, for people. Like, the people who either really love them or really don't care. I found them pretty interesting. They have the guy wearing the hat from Conan the Destroyer, right? The second Conan movie.
Yeah, I talked about
them. Yeah, which is funny.
Like, you're not
when Conan was trying to infiltrate or whatever.
We know what that hat looks like. That mask. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So those guys look good, and then it begs the question, right? So with Moon Clan confirmed, that means that we have 3 out of the 4 heralds done. Are we going to go all the way?
Like, right? Are we going to get the Dark? Are you going to re-release?
Yeah. Are we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we finally going to get the actual Dark Oath release? Right. I don't know. I still don't know. Like, it's so funny because
inquiring minds want to know if they're going to re-release the War Mammoth with the Dark Oath for Forge World.
Oh, that'd be so good. That would be so good.
Would that be?
Man, that would be awesome. We can all hope.
Get on it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I would like to think we'll definitely get the Dark Oath, but we'll see. If they all look like that, I'm okay with that. I like them just as sort of savage barbarians, right? I think there is still gas in that engine. People have a classic love. It feels more classically old world. I think there would be people who would be attracted to that aesthetic of an army. And I think there's still interesting things you could do with them. They don't all have to be like, let's take that little warband as a microcosm of that force, right? Like you have the running people with spears, you have like the bow dude, right? Like you've got different elements we can pull on here, right? It doesn't all have to be just literally like hordes of marauders.
Sure.
Like we can have interesting units within there. One of the questions that was asked in the comments was like, will it be completely separate from Slaves to Darkness? Who knows, man? Like that's my answer. Maybe, yes, possibly, who knows?
Sure.
They could go their own direction. The key with if you did Dark Oath, I think the secret to doing Dark Oath is actually in the member of the warband we haven't talked about yet.
What, the War Queen?
No. Like, she's a cool model. She's their spellcaster. The dog. I am the dog. Yeah, the dog. That is where we get at what actually makes Dark Oath be interesting and be varied, is they bring animals.
Dobermans.
Well, just animals. No, just animals. They can have wolves, and like you mentioned, the war mammoth, right? Like when we think of the savage barbarian sort of type, right? Like they've bonded with these
like beast
hunting animals.
Like this would be the Beastmaster army,
right? So like that, having the Beastmaster element to it, where they have like dogs or wolves or mammoths or anything in between, right? Would actually be a cool, unique differentiator for that army.
Sure.
They could have like hunting packs and stuff like that. Like that's kind of cool. I understand there are other armies that use animals. I get that. I am just saying, like, this would be a more significant, like, most armies tend to use animals tangentially, right? This would be part of their actual fluff and how they survived.
So rather than like range-based bonusing, so like Holy Within, or within X number of inches, you could do bonusing based on like how many other units are in combat with that unit. Like
that'd be a neat one. Yeah, sure.
Like, and have incentives from like those that like in D&D it would be language like flanking, but you could have like if they're in combat with one other unit, this type of bonus, two other units, X, this other type of bonus, to incentivize like the mosh pit, like party in the center of the board type of experience.
Well, just for combo maneuvers, right? It would also make smaller units more valuable if they really got significant bonuses, right? Because if you can run small units in.
If you had like a Beastmaster, like a unit that teams with like a certain set of beasts, like if both are in combat, they activate together. So you don't have to like, so you get to like activate 2 units during an activation instead of 1 if both are in the same combat or something.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that's what I was saying. Like those kind of bonuses could mitigate the classic problem of charging a single unit with 2 units, right? Because if you don't wipe them out with the first one, then they end up being a problem, right? Because they just kill your second unit. So yeah, I'm down with that. I like that.
Yeah, there's some design space here to play with.
Right. So at any rate, the Dark Oath are cool. I really liked them. I thought they were a lot of fun. We got other new tiny news, right? So a couple different things. First off, we got the confirmation of the Christmas bundles and the prices. And Tom, we were wrong in our guesses, man. It wasn't the right army. So
Sarah, you would have known.
Yeah, man. What? So Idneth, Doc, Seraphon, and Slaves to Darkness.
Obviously, Seraphon and Slaves to Darkness are the 2 outliers there. We knew that we would probably get something from Doc and probably something from Idneth. We expected something from Nurgle. We didn't get that. We expected something from what was the other one?
Legions, like from Nighthaunt. The Ghosty Boys, right? No Stormcast box this year. This is the first time since we did these boxes that we haven't had the Stormcast box.
Yep.
Maybe they're just saving that one. They'll announce that one separately.
I think they may have learned from their 6 Gryph-hound box the last time around.
So we got that confirmation, and then which those all look like pretty darn good deals.
Yeah.
And I thought the Slaves box was actually pretty fun. I thought the dock box was pretty fun.
Yeah, I really don't need another cauldron, but it's kind of tempting.
Yeah, I mean, it has Canary, it has the big cauldron, so it has all your heroes. It has snakes in it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It has a nice sampling of the whole army. I mean,
yep. Yeah, and the slaves box was interesting because it had both the Manticore hero and the War Shrine. So it's got like all these it's got 2 big kits in it, right?
I will say this for those that are interested in potentially starting dock, it would be the type of thing where, like, if you have not started, it would be a great double buy. Like, start.
Oh yeah, certainly.
2 of those army boxes would be a great start on the army.
Yeah, because it would give you like both of the versions, the Medusa you need, it'd give you your Slaughter Queen, it'd give you both your Hag Queens, right? Because if you did the Slaughter Queen on Cauldron and you did the Medusa on Shrine, then you've got 2 Hag Queens running around. It'd give you your snakes, it'd give you all your Canary. Yeah, I mean, like it's
all your Canary, it'd give you 20 witch elves, right? So
I mean, yes, the key is like you don't want the witch elf tech anyways. Look, you're buying these witch elves for Christmas. You don't look, folks. I saw somebody say like it should have had more witch elves. The stock market, you don't buy high. Okay, that's not how this works. That's a good way to lose money. Don't buy witch elves right now. That's like I don't mean that in like the literal sense. I mean the stock market
are
sense.
Going out of they're not the buy right now.
No, if we're on that show, I'm just saying like change is a coming, right? So for the witch elves, now I don't know what that means. Maybe I'm sure they'll still be perfectly fine afterward. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But there's also possible that they aren't perfectly fine after we're done. My point is, I would if it was me and it was a stock, I would say I've got a hold on that one.
If you look at trends of what GW has done when things need to be corrected in the past, in the recent past, things don't look too good. Just look as far as KO and Zinch.
Well, KO is a bad example in general across the board, but I'll give you the Zinch one. KO's got too much other baggage with it to even be used as a baseline anymore. It's just a statistical anomaly. But I'll give you Zinch.
Sure, a statistical anomaly. Okay.
Your army is a statistical anomaly, Tom.
Sure.
Tom. I don't think that like there was a statement of I hope Doc remains viable. I don't. Oh, Beast Claw is the good second example, by the way. Thank you, Halo Twitch. The reality is,
it would be hard to make Doc non-viable because like snakes are still good. They're not bad.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good in that army.
Yeah.
Some adjustments aren't going to kill it. They're going to bring it probably more in line.
Sure.
So there you go.
It'll be playable. You'll get a huge dearth of players who are just going to exit from the scene because it's not easy mode anymore. But I think that there will be.
I don't know that it's ever easy mode, but okay.
This last weekend would beg to.
We'll talk about this last weekend. Well, let's talk about how you failed to keep your witches in range of the important bravery buff that would have, really sealed a deal there. Not that we still didn't win anyways, but it doesn't matter. I'm just saying it is a finesse army that requires some measurement that you failed to do properly. So I don't know.
You're right. You encouraged me to pile in a couple extra witches, as many as you could get in. So I moved as many as I could get in. Thanks, Vince.
I didn't tell you to move the back end of your conga line.
Anyways, continue.
So at any rate, so we've got all those bundles. And then of course we also had, what is this? The 2 new painting handles. So we've got the ultra wide
with arms.
We've got the grippies. Yeah, we got the grippies. The grippy painting handle. It's got grips. So both of those were funny. There's like a new water pot, I think, too, or something. But yeah. I'm not sure why you would buy a Citadel water pot. You have to really be into the Citadel product line to buy a Citadel water pot.
Your local mug at home did not count.
Right. I've got cups. Cups is a technology I already had. I can get the painting handle is actually useful. You know what I mean? Because it does have the little clippies on the top. It's a very strong clip. Both the little grippy clips and the new bigger one. That's cool. They show it can hold the whole bigger base, the Dreadnought. I actually think the Excel one's kind of quite useful, as a matter of fact.
Sure.
The little clippy one's interesting because it's for gluing things. So you put it into the bottom and you clip the top part, and then you put the glue on there, and then you push the thing down, and it'll hold it together.
It seems so awkward.
Well, it seems like those come off. I assume they better. The grippy arms better come off, because I can't imagine painting with those on there.
Oh, it'd be
right.
so...
Like, yeah, that would be horribly inconvenient. Like, horribly inconvenient. So I'm assuming the little alligator clippy clips come off, right?
Let us hope.
But yeah, so there we go. We got like those are pretty cool. The XL one I do like, because one of my problems with the old painting handle, like it's good. It was a great product, as a matter of fact, but it really couldn't handle bigger than like a 40 or 50 mil base. I think it was kind of the top end. And there's just a lot of stuff you paint that's on a bigger base than that. And so like having that one that has the nice tiers that slide out and can handle lots of different sizes, I thought was actually quite beneficial. So
cool. Anything else? I think that's it, right?
That's most of it. Yeah, there you go. That's our news. I mean, obviously, we're going to talk a little about Blood and Glory. It was this last weekend.
Yep.
And we're going to talk a little about Holy Havoc, the tournament we went to, which was also this last weekend. But first off, one more thing. Sorry, there was one more piece of news I almost forgot. They announced the Warhammer audiobooks. So Warhammer Adventures are getting audiobooks.
Yep.
And they're bringing in, it's the Doctor Who squad, man. They're bringing it in. David Tennant and Billy Piper doing the audiobooks for this, which I am very, very, very excited about, to be completely honest.
Like the kids' book. It's amazing.
Yeah. Obviously, I was a big fan of that.
Yep.
I was a big fan of that series of Doctor Who. I'm a big fan. Like, who's not a fan of David Tennant? Like, that's insane. That's ridiculous.
I like the Purple Man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, exactly. Even if you never watched Doctor Who, I mean, the Purple Man was amazing, right? But Tennant was good, and he's been good in 100 things. I don't want to short his career, but I'm excited about both of these coming in and reading the books. So they're gonna be the readers of the audiobooks. That's super cool. So yeah, the Attack of the Necron, the 40K one, will be read by David Tennant, and the Warhammer Adventures, the AOS one, will be read by Billy Piper, which is so cool. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just fantastic. So there you go. Not the most on point AOS news, but I thought it was pretty awesome. I was jazzed for it. So there you go. And by the way, now we have started the conversation. Oh yeah, obviously this all comes off of having Brian Bless as Gotrek, right? Which he had a really awesome tweet earlier today talking about how it was one of the doing Gotrek was one of the most fun projects he's ever worked on. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice.
I don't want to start the argument in the comments of who's the best doctor. So, there we go. I will say Tennant was a great doctor. There you go. Okay. So let's talk about some pick of the week. Tom, what do you got, man? What do you want to share with people?
So I occasionally will highlight threads on TGA. And I want to highlight one this week, a conversation that started, and it's one that is close to our heart, I think, or at least mine. And it was on the conversation about how can we trust, quote, fan sites or channels? And it just raises a question about GW advertising and product placement and support and like authentic opinions. And it was just a really kind of honest conversation about community channels and transparency and stuff like that. And I kind of weighed in on for Warhammer Weekly, like we accept no product. And so like whenever we review things, it's with our own money and it's because we love the community and we love the game and we want to give back. But it's just a good, very like the potential to be a hot conversation. And it was a very level headed and kind of rational exchange. And it was just worth, if people haven't thought about it before, it's a conversation worth reflecting on. That's what I would say. So
yeah, I mean, there's also sure. I mean, like I don't know. We have a very sort of strict policy about this, just because we want to keep our distance. It's not. I am happy to give GW my money. In fact, I'm happy to give, people in general my money if they're making a product I like. Right. I do believe in voting with your dollar.
Right. Right.
And so I think that it is a question of like transparency. The more you talk about it up front, it's not it's not a question of like, oh, you shouldn't get stuff from
Right.
people. If GW wants it, like GW, of course, should be handing out stuff to people to review early. 100%, right? And I don't have a problem. Like and it's not as though them being positive about it is any reason to question their I don't know, what do you want to say? Their honor, I don't know, whatever, right? Their honesty, perhaps. Like the reality is that GW's been just making a lot of really good stuff lately. Most of our reviews are overwhelmingly positive, and we don't get anything. Like it's not a critique. It's just a statement that like we're positive because it's good, right? Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me to see other people sharing that opinion. So there you go. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, it was a good, healthy conversation and exchange of ideas. That's what I wanted to acknowledge and honor. And so I want to share that with everybody.
Yeah, and like in the end, use your own best judgment as always, right? I hope people feel like they can trust us if we're talking about something. We've never given anything but our
like the corn dragon.
Yeah, if you want to see how I feel about things, it's not being positive. Go watch my corn dragon rant from a week or 2 weeks ago or whatever. Was that last week?
But yeah, that was last week. But that's the point. I mean, that's exactly my point. Is that like when I think we feel like it's warranted, we are critical of stuff that we think they could have done better, and we want to cheer them on to do better. And when they do awesome, we're gonna cheer them on for that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will also say that just if I feel negative about something, as in the corn dragon thing, I tried to very much separate the work of the person from the work of from the work itself. Does that make sense? Like insofar as there's a distinction to be made there, because like I fully believe that everybody who works in that building or in most of these buildings making games in general, from my experience of years of working with people and consulting with people making games, almost everybody who does this is incredibly passionate and wants nothing more than to make the best possible thing, right? I have encountered remarkably few bad actors in this in this hobby, and that doesn't always mean that you make a great product. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, as it were, right? But like the reality is that I would never attack and will never condone or sanction attacking an individual person, right? Unless they do something that's totally out of bounds. I mean, like for their creation, for a game, for a set of rules, for stuff like that, right? Because they're all. I really believe that people are operating in good faith,
and I fully agree with that. Yeah, I mentioned the thread because you don't find any of that in this conversation. Because I've seen this conversation devolve before, and that's not what this is. So that's why I wanted to share it with everybody.
Yep. Okay. So for myself, my pick is a new show that I want to point everybody's attention to if you're really interested in tournament stuff. From the Honest Wargamer, he's doing a stat breakdown now with LLV's stats, who's here in the chat. So thank you, LLV, for putting all that together. Like he's doing an amazing amount of work collecting. I know he had all the Blood and Glory stuff entered in like so fast afterward. And now Rob on the Honest Wargamer channel and pod has a show dedicated solely to that. And what's nice about it is it's short and very consumable, right? So if you want your quick hobby fix of sort of results, the Tourney stat show. I love that this can be a thing because there's now the tournament scene is growing so much that there's enough stats to constantly keep this moving and churning, right? So he did week 1 was the most recent show, came out yesterday or 2 days ago. I don't remember exactly because my life is a blur right now.
Yesterday.
Sure. But and so he has he goes through and talk, and it's actually nice. He's got put together some really nice little graphics and stuff. Talks about win percentages and number of appearances in the meta and stuff like that. He kind of talks about the nature of the army, why he thinks they're doing well or under or overperforming. It's really quality. And so they're great. Like they're a great bite-sized video to pick up to get your Warhammer stats fix. So I'll link that down in the comments. It's great. I finally got to actually watch it today and I loved it. So big shout out to Rob. Big shout out to LV. Great work all around. Okay. Hobby time. So Tom, the tournament is passed. Your army is done. What are you working on now, man?
Nothing. I am working on nothing right now.
Everybody, most people when they come from a tournament, they get jazzed for the hobby.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure. So obviously Relian,
Yep.
Brad,
I know.
He was over there at Blood and Glory. He came, I think, 16th. That sounds right. And so congratulations to him. That's pretty fantastic. And he was on such a high after his tournament experience that I think he placed an order like the next day from England for a new army.
Contacted Mini Stomp, which is the right answer, and got a new army. So this is what I did. See my hobby area? It's clean. Look at my painting table. So I've cleaned everything up. I mean, I probably ought to start on a project. Hasn't happened yet. I've been home 2 days. No, I have some stuff I want to put together and paint. Just to round out my daughters for 1,000 and various 1,000, 2,000 point games. Like I have some alternate builds I want to do. So I'll be working on those in the coming months. And then I have an itch for a Night Haunt army. I feel like I cracked the code for Night Haunt. And it wasn't where my head was
By
at.
crack the code, he means he finally figured out that what I said had a lot of potential in our initial Night Haunt review show was actually good. That's what Tom means when he says he cracked the code. Just to lay this out for everybody. If you I'm not going to talk about your army, Tom, because that's fine. But in our initial show, I put my finger on something that I thought would be really cool and actually good, and you were like, bleh.
Yes.
And then now I'm sitting in the airport waiting for my flight, and I'm getting texts from you on the drive home like, oh man, I've got such a good idea for Ghosty Boys. I'm just going to say, that's the reality of what happened here.
I'm not going to say you're wrong. What I'll say is that you're not completely right, though, because it takes a kernel of what you would put your finger on, and then I found another combo that turns it up to 11.
Sure. No, I don't disagree that you didn't add to my idea.
And what I will say is that the problem is that I had to step completely outside of where my head was at to even see the potential for the combo. But as soon as I did,
we'll let Tom think about it more, and we'll do another Night Haunt show. Like we're going to do a Night Haunt, like with all the shows where we did their initial show, we come back and we'll do like a competitive review of them. Months after. Like we like to give them 3 to 6 months in the meta to see how they perform.
I love how
it's coming back around time for Night Haunt.
I love how the comments are like, just tell us. We won't tell anyone honest. You and the 105 or 106 people that are watching right now and the 3,000 that will watch in the next 7 days. Indeed.
So at any rate, we'll do a full show, and don't worry, I'll force Tom to share his list and whether or not he has it built or not. And we'll talk about competitive Night Haunt because I do think there's a lot to unpack there, both with Night Haunt specifically and Night Haunt as part of Legions broadly. Our most certainly I think our toughest game from this past weekend was against a Death Army. Obviously, when we talk about Blood and Glory results, it's not going to be a question of whether or not Death has gas in the engine in AOS 2. So there's a lot to unpack there, and I don't want to short shrift it. That's what I'll say. But don't worry.
No, I would agree.
We will come back to it. Because I have a lot of thoughts now after watching the Ghosty Boys perform for months. I'm excited to go back to them and give a deep dive and sort of, revisit our initial thoughts on them. So,
Indeed.
There you go.
Indeed. Yep.
Well, good. And you should do a Ghost Army, Tom, because, it's like, it's not a tough army to paint. So there you go.
I mean, it's
got that going for you.
And I already have it half built, primed, zenithal, and some of it already the transitions already painted with an airbrush. So actually, it would just be me dropping a little bit more cash on a couple key units, and then I basically would have everything I need. So I mean, it wouldn't be a hard thing to finish. I just want to finish my daughters my range before I jump into another project like that.
I understand. For myself, I've had 0 hobby time because literally, as Tom said, I left the tournament, left everything with him, put it in his car, and then, got an Uber, had the most ridiculous adventure trying to catch my airplane ever, but did make it, and then came here, and I haven't left this hotel since then. So I have not been at my hobby desk for almost a week now, and it's legitimately killing me. I've got a bit of the shakes. If I don't paint soon, I'm going to have a breakdown. So I am very excited. I mean, my wife is out here with me. She's obviously not in the room right now, but she's out here with me. And
Amber told me to tell you to tell Kathy hi.
Oh, great. I'll pass that along. That's critical information. But I did get to have some fun hobby time since I'm out here on the West Coast. I got to go hang out with Aaron and Liz last night. So Aaron Lovejoy and his significant other, Liz Hunt, who both of them are with Miniature Monthly. And that was great. So it was good to just go out, have a nice dinner. Went out with my wife and them. Had a fun time. And of course, the conversation quickly devolved where Aaron and I were off to the side just talking about miniature painters and things like that. And things we wanted to see and upcoming plans for models and stuff like that. And then I felt bad and was shamed into rejoining the normal human conversation somewhat later. So, because I felt bad leaving my wife out of it. She's the only person at that table who doesn't paint. So it's like I had to be careful or I was going to get myself in trouble. But there you go. That's been my closest thing to a hobby outlet over there. I will say that I am very excited to return to my desk because I've got a cracker of a hobby cheating planned for this week. I'm in the course of finishing up the big project I'm working on. You'll get to see the first element of it because it's going to show up in a hobby cheating video this weekend. So there'll be a big spoiler for the project coming out this Saturday, which I think the project will actually get finished up pretty soon after that. I'm hoping this weekend I can more or less put a pin in it and call it done. We'll see. I told my wife that don't expect anything from me when I get back. I'm literally just sequestering myself and painting for 3 days. Just no sleep till Brooklyn. Just only painting all the time. So there you go. I figure I can do 22 hours a day, no problem. So it should be fine. All right. So let's spin through some tournament results. I want to talk Blood and Glory first because it's the big one.
Yep.
So the big story from Blood and Glory rhymes. What is the story, Blood and Glory? The big story from Blood and Glory. Yeah, baby, death. So congratulations to Russ Veal. Russ took first place. Overall score was pretty solid. 10 points above his nearest competitor with 9,000 kill points. That's pretty darn decent. 36 did all the way through, as did the top 3. All were on 5 wins.
With a Kraken Sacrament army. I loved it. A lot of people were like, oh, it's not so hard. No, it was an amazing army, and it was well thought out. Running around with +4.
Yeah, you want to talk about his list a little bit?
Yeah, so it was an Archon, and then he had a Zombie Dragon, right? Vampalord on Zombie Dragon. He had a bunch of Direwolf Chaff. He had a Mortis Engine. I'm trying to remember what else he had. Maybe some more.
The inclusion of the Mortis Engine was especially happy for me. I loved seeing that guy back out there. And
I mean, so what it meant ultimately was that Archon was running around with, in a Necromancer, obviously, who was in there. It's again 30 Grimghast maybe. But Archon was running around with a +4 cast, +2 base, +1 from the Mortis, and then +1 from the Sacrament. Which I mean, that means he's outcasting Nagash. I think that actually Archon is one of the best kept secrets in Death. So many people were talking about Nagash that I think they forget how potent Archon is, because he still seals all the death spells. So in a meta, in our current meta, in the mirror match against Death against Nagash, Archon is a very powerful tool on the table because he also has Hand of Dust against Nagash. And he's a lot cheaper.
He steals Nagash's Hand of Dust.
Yes.
And great in the mirror.
Yes,
which I know it happened at least once that Archon dusted off the enemy Nagash, which is pretty great.
Right. He Realm of Shadows, like
Bridge
teleport.
of Shadowed.
He Bridge of Shadowed and then got close and then handed dusted him. Which, like, kudos to so good. So good.
Yeah, our top 3 were all death, although different flavors of death, right?
Yep.
Like they weren't all the same death. So obviously, as we mentioned, Russ with Legion of Sacrament. Joe, also Joe McGo. I don't know how to say his last name. McGaw. I don't know. I'm terrible at names. He did have a Legion of Sacrament, but it was a slightly different list. And then Tony Moore had Grand Host of Nagash. And then 4th place was Stormcast. And then we had like some Idneth Deepkin who performed quite strong. ID did pretty well. We had a Daughters of Cain up there. We had a Sylvaneth up there.
But it's worth mentioning
Grand Alliance Destruction.
The 4 Daughters armies going into round 4 all played each other. So they like got double mirror matches going into the final round, like from 4 to 5. Like 2 of the Daughters armies got eliminated by other Daughters armies.
Sure.
They were the mirror matches. And then one of them was on table 1. Russ played one of the Daughters armies for table 1. So even though like Daughters didn't win the tournament or even place in the top 5, the reality is that it's because that there's a Daughter army on table 1. I think Donna.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at Ben Sava, obviously, who was on the show recently and talked about Daughters. I mean, if you look at his record, he came in. I don't know what the actual placement was, because if I'm looking at the Best Coast pairings results, and it goes like 1, 2, 3, 3, 5, 6, 6, 8, 8. So whatever number that actually makes him, like a top 10 range. Ben was like 36, 36, 36, 6, 36. Right? It was that round that sunk him there, that round 4. But obviously, like, there was, a couple of Daughters armies. There was a lot of, like, what's really impressive to me, like, there's been a lot of question around Idneth, right? And whether or not they've got sort of the gas to get there. And even though they didn't take first, when you look at, say, like, the top 20 or something, let's say, right? There's quite a lot of Idneth swimming around in those waters. So, yeah. And they played pretty strong throughout. So I thought that was kind of cool. I hope more people continue really exploring what Idneth is capable of. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
As LOV in the comments pointed out, both Deepkin and Doc basically, performed the best overall if you look at their win ratios. Right? And which I think is still... really telling, because getting to the top can sometimes be, as was pointed out there, somewhat matchup dependent, right? And like there are sort of nuances to that, but when you look across the aggregate performance, that says something more about the strength of the army, right? And there was a question asked of like, will Deepkin still perform if they didn't have the backbone of the Eels? I probably, yes. I don't know what that means. Like, if they didn't have the backbone of the Eels, do you mean like the Eels get 20 points more expensive, or do you mean the Eels get 60 points more expensive, right? Like, there's 2 different worlds there. Like, they need the Eels, whether we mean O or D Eels. But they also have, like, Thralls are probably underused. And like, there is still, there are probably hidden lists in there that haven't needed to be explored, given where the Eels are at. But that being said, I don't know that any of the Eels are really on the chopping block. I don't know that they're problematic in any great way. I mean, time will tell on that. I have no great insight into points adjustments, but I'm not sure that I would flag them as like something that's in this horrendous state of like must be adjusted. If they were going to be adjusted, I wouldn't expect more than 20 points. Right. So, and I'm not sure that'll break their back. Right. Now, if they went up if they went up 60 points, well, then we've got a situation on our hands here. Right, like that's a totally different army all of a sudden. That's a paradigm shift in what you can fit in that army. I mean, Visa. Just go back and look what happened when Skyfires went up like 60 points. Right, that's a big shift. Like 60 points a unit for a 3-man unit is that you can very quickly place yourself out of usefulness. Yeah. So I was happy to see Stormcast in 4th. Craig Namvar. Who also had a 5-win record. Good to see the Golden Boy still playing hard. coming up there. So that was great. I have no idea what was in his list. I didn't see the actual list. But that was cool. It was good to see him. All right. So anything else you want to say about Blood and Glory? It was a big like had 166 players overall, which was great. And the it seemed like all of the commentary on it was quite positive. One of the questions, this got asked in the comments, but I don't have any feedback on it. But one of the questions was about how people thought about what people thought of the secondaries. And I mean, my impression of it, like, so they the way that they ran them, as far as I know, right, was you get all 12 in every round, you have to pick one, and then you burn it, right?
Right.
My big complaint with that was that's too many choices. Like, it doesn't surprise me the secondary completion rate was so high because out of a pool of 12 in 5 rounds, you're probably always going to find one you can complete.
Yeah, right? Nobody was making really hard decisions. Like if you went down to like 7 random out of instead of the 12, you
7
went to
random out of 12, and you had to play 5.
12, and you had to play 5 of the 7. You're going to get back to a bell curve where most people might get 3, a couple 4, very rarely 1 or 2 5, and you're gonna move back to the type of distribution that you actually want at an event like that.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see, like, there's still obviously a lot of consternation. Like the UK scoring is what it is, right? And we had, that was a great show. I know you weren't here, Tom, but we had a great conversation with Ian and Richie, which I really did enjoy because it opened my eyes to a lot of different elements of
So
okay, and we're back. There you go. Can you hear me okay now?
I can hear you now. I locked up and died as well. So I think it's
it kicked us both.
Weird.
Yeah. It was Google. But whatever. We're back. Okay. So at any rate, yeah, it was interesting, and those scoring differences are interesting, and so time will tell. We'll see how it evolves.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Tom, would you like to talk about Holy Havoc now? Obviously, we have a personal vested interest in this. I don't want to short shrift Blood and Glory, but Tom and I have a personal interest in this since we played in this tournament.
Sure.
All right. So what happened, Tom? We went to this. So Holy Havoc, as you saw from our last show, it's a 5-game team tournment.
That
Tom
happened.
And I yes, that is what happened. There you go. You're pointing at the best overall trophies or whatever. Yes.
Indeed.
So we each took 1,000 points of daughters.
Well, 1,500 played 1,000 each game.
Sure. It has a sideboard, but yes, you play 1,000 on the table. Tom ran a gross witch elf driven Hagnar list that was utter filth, and I ran a Calibron actually win the game list that was chaff for Tom, and basically like screened and teleported where we needed to gain objectives. So the basic premise here was quite simple.
It was the best of all possible worlds.
Yes, because I provided him all the chaff walls. I had all the movement tricks and teleportation and anti-shooting.
Yep.
And I screened his big units, kept him safe, always had chaff wherever we needed it. And then Tom would super buff his witch elves and send them in to just commit bloody murder. Like literally the worst. Like there were times where those witches attacked. There was a game, like we don't have to blow by blow this. And by the way, first shout out before we get into this, like it really was filth. It was like some of the worst filth on display. But we knew what we were doing. We were also playing on a table.
You're like, we knew what we were doing in the
like, I'm
filth
not
we
going to try to
brought.
ask forgiveness for this. Like, we're the ones who piloted this list. We knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
Eyes wide open. So the way this tournament worked, hold on, I want to get this out real quick. An interesting element to this tournament was it didn't use Swiss pairings. Okay.
Yes, and it had a sideboard too. So like, talk about that first. We each brought 1,500 points, and we deployed 1,000, so we could change our list based on scenarios and based on whatever our needs were.
Yes, but I never did. Like, I never changed my list.
I did twice,
one game,
or maybe one game. Yeah, I guess I didn't change it. Yeah.
Yeah, we basically, and like, that wasn't essential. We did it for convenience. We would have still had the same outcome had you not done that.
So true. Yeah, I guess we didn't change it.
Yes. So at any rate, effectively, okay, quick rundown of the actual list. Tom, you had 30 Witch Elves, Hag Queen on Cauldron, Hag Queen on foot.
It was 30 and 30, one set shields, one set double knives. I had a Hag on Cauldron, a Hag on foot, and a 5 Canary, the Heartrenders, and then then the Soul Snare Shackles Endless Spell. And you'll be like, well, Tom, you didn't have a wizard. Well, we each got a warlord that was like a handcrafted hero that we could, like, everybody could build out using a bunch of upgrades, like the whole tournament could. And so mine was built out to be a wizard. So I basically got a wizard out of my warlord.
Yeah, and everybody had an equal warlord. Everybody had the same chance to build the same warlord. So it was all equal footing.
Yep.
My list was a slaughter troop, a min slaughter troop. So 5 Canary, 10 Sisters of Slaughter, 10 Sisters of Slaughter, a Slaughter Queen on foot, the troop, 10 Blood Sisters, the melee snakes, a Hag on foot, and the Gravetide and the spell.
Oh yeah, and then Vince had a Gravetide Endless Spell.
Yeah, rocking that Gravetide. That's what you do with 30 points when you need extra chaff to just block off sections of the board. And like, it's important to understand that Steve's, like, the TO, his boards are very full of terrain.
And shout out to Steve in the comments. Steve's hanging out with us.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yes, the terrain is very full, and mobility is a really important thing on these boards. And so what Vince brought was the ability to control the flow of combat by like having like a multitude of chaff units and the ability to teleport wherever we needed to be. And so, like, as he said, he won the games. I just killed the enemy armies.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely true.
Yep.
Like, there were many times in the last round I was like, don't worry, I'll get us these 2 objectives. And then I would go get those 2 objectives, and that's like 15 points I would make us in the last turn. But they couldn't stop us because you were too busy ripping through their army. Okay? Like, just unstoppably butchering them.
Well, you were talking about the lack of Swiss pairing. So let's talk about what this tournament was.
My favorite pairing method ever. Like, this is not the way you go for like the most competitive thing, but it was certainly a super fun thing. So, like, what I mean by that is, like, this tournament has a different goal, as we talked about last week. Like, it's a narratively infused tournament. Steve has these beautiful tables. He has 15 tables, each of which is tied to a realm. So each table had a set realm, and each table has a set amount of terrain. And like, it is a set lookup. Like, the whole table is built extremely bespoke to be this world.
Yep.
Okay. And so one of the tables is the Daughters of Cain table. It's a Temple of Cain. And the Temple of Cain is where we played more or less all weekend, 4 out of our 5 games, because at the beginning of each round, he would randomly draw all the teams out of a hat and place them in an order. And you would, the first half, would pick the table you wanted to play on.
Or a matchup if they really wanted a matchup.
Sure. And then the second half would either then pick the tables if there were still open tables, or they would pick a matchup. So every time we either picked the Daughters of Cain table, if it was available, or we matched up against whoever was on the Daughters of Cain table. Right. Because this table was in the realm of shadow and had the realm rule in effect of like limiting shooting to 12 inches. Good for us. It also had a terrain piece that when you make blood offerings around it, which like there's a method of doing
when damage is spilled nearby.
Yeah. It broadcasts this massive aura of +1 attack, which is repeatable and stacks throughout the turn. It has a cap, so like it gets up, but by combat it can get up to like +3 attacks if you cause enough damage.
Yep.
If you thought witch elves attacked too much before, witch elves making like 6 or 7 attacks is the grossest thing in the universe. Like there were times where I had my snakes making 4 crystal touch attacks. That's pretty good. Mm-hmm. You get a lot of mortal wounds out of 4 crystal touch attacks.
Yeah, 40 attacks.
Crystal touch attacks or whatever.
You know, all 10 snakes get in. That's 40. That's 40 crystal touch attacks. That means 20 mortal wounds out of 10 snakes.
Sure.
No. Words, sorry, you had Catechism Murder on, so add another third to that.
Yeah, so
26, exactly. 27.
Always Catechism, baby. So at any rate, you know, like it was a brutal time, a brutal weapon. It was brutal. But you're not wrong, LLB. I mean, I'd like to say you're not. I'd like to say you're wrong, but you're not. At any rate, it was a lot of fun, and
everybody. Hold on. I'm going to challenge this. We did not take a broken army to a fluff event and then game the system. We went to a narrative event with an army, a double daughters army, and defended the Temple of Cain. And there's a reason why in Millennia, Chaos could never take the Realm of Shadow, and in fact didn't even know who would live there, because people who would just go into the mists and the darkness would disappear. And we just wanted to live out and make that narrative experience a real experience for any opponent who sat across the table from us.
That's true. In the narrative, anybody who infiltrates the Realm of Shadow gets killed, and boy, was that true here. We narratively defended our realm by murdering all who opposed us. Let none walk away. It was like, and here's the thing. Nobody, because of the nature that you pick your matchup, nobody went into this blind.
Yeah, like right? Everybody knew.
We never.
Going into round 3, there were murmurs of like, I'm not matching up. We're not matching up against Tom and Vince. And so there was people picked their fights. They knew what they were getting themselves into with this type of matchup, and they could choose it. One thing that I had asked Steve to do, and I think was very wise that he decided to do it, was he posted the list of current game totals at the end of day 1. So going into day 2, if people were set on wanting to win the event, they could headhunt those that were also top competitors, or they could avoid them. And so they could make conscious decisions to do that. The game that Vince mentioned of our hardest game was against Jake and Sean of the Detroit club.
Who are two of who we have played on several occasions at these holy events, and who are 2 of the consistently best people that we ever play against. I mean, these guys they're great competitors. Such ridiculously good competitors, right? Yep. And they sought us out.
Yeah, Sunday morning. They knew what this was, and so they were second or third drop, and they picked the Daughters of Cain, and they looked right at us, and they're like, boys. I mean, and ironically, the next match after that, we got top billing, so we got to choose the Daughters of Cain to invite challengers, and their other club mates that were there, the other Detroit group that wasn't Relian and Andrew, because they were in Blood and Glory, but the other Detroit group that I hadn't had an opportunity to play against challenged us again. It was fantastic, and we had a blast.
What was cool about this was honestly some of the most fun I've had in tournament matchups. The really cool part about it was you could avoid playing the games. Oh, thank you, Donnie and Jason. Yeah. You could avoid playing the games that you didn't want to play against in both, and have maximum fun. What I mean by that is we didn't that army was filthy. Yep. Okay. But we didn't go foist it on anyone.
Only Nick. Right? Only the first game we foisted it on somebody, and that was because we couldn't choose our table. And we were at the bottom of the matchup.
Last, and we had to go. There was only one table we could pick. That was the last time.
I felt really bad because it was another one of the Holy Hammer crew, Nick, and a guy that had been playing AOS for a couple of weeks. I felt kind of bad about that.
Well, it was an important lesson to learn. But beyond that, like for the most part, people found tables they like, and people generally all had good games because they were able to set themselves at the type of game they wanted by picking their matchup, picking the people they wanted to play against. It made the entire event have a feel of just people having a good time playing Warhammer and engaging with the tables they wanted, with the opponents they wanted.
Yep.
It was awesome.
People got to play at the pace they wanted to play. Those that wanted to match up against Vince and I because they wanted to just play us, like some of our opponents on day one were like, hey, we just wanted to roll dice with you guys. And that was awesome. Like, and we enjoyed playing with them. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I loved this. I hope Steve does this forever. So Steve, you keep this up. It was great. We're not going to be bringing back this filth, not just because of that, but it was a good game. It was
Vince told me that I have to play Swift Hawk Agents next year.
Yeah, correct. What I'll say is that like you hit that group of plague monks. There was during round 5, our opponents had 2 40 packs of plague monks, right? So Tom sends his
Donnie and Jason
buffed up Donnie and Jason, sorry. Who by the way had a great looking army. Was Donnie the one who did all the conversions? Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. He had awesome conversions. I loved his army. Like his I keep wanting to call them acolytes because he had acolytish conversion as his enlightened. They looked so sweet. He had a cool warlord he had converted. Like he ended up taking best warlord with it. It was a Skaven warlord. It looked sweet as all get out. It was a really cool game to play. And 240 packs of
plague monks
are a pretty good matchup for witch elves. Right, because if they get into the witch elves first, they can do the damage, especially on this table where they'd be making 6 or 7 attacks back.
Right. So them dishing out 200 to 300 attacks wouldn't be outside the pale.
Yeah, and I mean this tournament could have been called Tom and Vince bank it all on a 9-inch charge and make it, because there were multiple times that our strategy revolved on landing a 9-inch charge and we would make it, and so it didn't help. We had a filthy army, but luck was also on our side, so. Double cheating, I guess. I don't know. But Tom lands a long charge, gets into the plague monks before they can get at him. You went over top of the chaff wall effectively.
No, I slipped around the side. You
float around the chaff wall because we had picked a few off and shooting. And you had 12 witches making 78 attacks, and all the plague monks were dead in the first 24 attacks in. Right? I mean
because they were all, it was all mind razored, and so they're all 2 damage attacks and
right. Yeah. So,
and then we to be fair, we obliterated it with that charge, and then we won initiative. That was at the top, at the bottom of 1.
They had to suffer a double turn on the back.
And they double turned, and I was able to then go into the other block of plague monks and his 6 of his enlightened there with the witches, and just the charge, wiped them out. All of that. Because they were all at 7 attacking, 2 damage, or actually that was when I overextended. So against 1, they were 2 damage.
Against the plague monks, you left 1 alive.
I left 1 alive.
You went into the second 40 pack without the benefit of the mind razor damage bonus, and you only killed 39, which I really felt like was you.
What's the bravery of plague monks?
It was because they had their warlord right there.
Oh, they had their warlord right there. That's right. Yep. So it was an augmented bravery. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So
you did shred the enlightened because their warlord was nowhere near them.
Right. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. I left 1 plague monk alive. Oops.
The luckiest rat in history, who then immediately retreated. He was out of there, man. He didn't flee from battle shock because obviously he was immune to battle shock at that point, because of the temple. But boy, did he get his butt out of there fast.
Yeah, I mean, but again, everybody knew what they were getting themselves into, and what I loved about it was that people knew where everybody else was in the matchup, so they could choose their fights.
Yeah.
Yep.
Overall, it was 5 really good, fun games that I think, this was the optimal way that this was an optimal. The most ridiculous, unattainable, optimized daughters list, because you can't do this in a 2K where you have 2 temple bonuses effectively, right? Now, we couldn't share, Right. That is to say,
Right.
to be very clear, like he didn't benefit from my Calibron and I didn't benefit from his Hagnar. So don't anybody think that. Right.
But it allowed half the army to be super defensive and it allowed half the army to be super mobile.
Right. Yep. Exactly. So it was, it was it was a unique chance to do something that would otherwise be impossible on a table that was very themey. Like Tom was like, after day one, was like, we need to get off this table. We're too brutal on it. And I was like, no, Tom, this is what we came to do. Okay. We have this table. We defend our realm. Okay. All those who oppose us must be destroyed. The interlopers in the realm of shadow will not be tolerated.
I was trying to wheel us back, and Vince is like, no, this is what we are.
Yeah, like, get into it, man. Don't pull back, okay? When you go into the darkness, when you stare into the abyss, all right? You go with your eyes wide open. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. And like, to be fair, like a lot of the Death players were camping on Shyish, and like, so it wasn't just us. Like the one KO army was camping on the fire table, which was increasing all their rend by 1 and giving them +1 damage spells. So like it certainly wasn't only us. Like generally everybody found a table or 2 tables that they really enjoyed and that they wanted to spend their time on. And then some people just wanted to experience all the tables, and so they jumped around. So yeah, it was a very different experience of the event. It was enjoyable. At the end of the day, Vince and I took best team. So like the highest battle points out of the 100 total, we took 96.
Yeah.
Which is fairly high for holy events. Because if you guys know anything about like the way that these events are, a lot of the objectives are just simply random. Like there's nothing you can do to control it. And so,
well, you can put them in your favor, but ultimately it's hard to decide them.
Right.
Like there's going to be random elements get in there. Saying they're totally random is unfair. It's not flip a coin.
No, that's fair.
Okay, it's that like many scenarios, even in the GHB, have random events that can influence your ability to attain them. Right. Like relocation orb is many of them have an element like relocation orb.
Sure.
Right, where things can scurry away from you or stuff like that.
Yeah, the game can get
you can
like,
still set yourself up for success if you think about what's going on, but you can't decide it. It's very rare that you could 100% say like I'm definitely going to be able to do this.
Unless you could largely delete the entire enemy army in a turn.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah, it's not bad. It's pretty good. So it was but
so
it was
Swift Talk Agents coming to you.
Yeah,
soon.
like I can't wait till the next time we go with Worst Forces and everybody's just kicking our teeth in and thrilled about it. So like we're gonna eat our humble pie on this one real hard. So that's fine. Yeah, I look forward to that.
We're gonna swing a different way next time.
Sure. Literally, if I'm playing Slaanesh, I'll be swinging all over the place.
I'm playing Night Haunt.
Sure. But it was a really fun tournament, and I know that Steve wants to take both of the holy events into a team footing. We were talking about that. He did talk, somebody mentioned in the comments hooking up with Raw. I know that's another thing he wants to explore.
Yep.
It's just a really solid narrative event. It's a lot of fun. I think that what Steve has been doing to grow it, we talked about it a lot last week, but I had fun with all the changes, and it is a thing I build my army around each year. Yep. Like going to Holy Havoc and stuff is what sets my I build my army toward that date. Yep. Because it is sort of the
first on our calendar.
Both as it's also like I managed to take the best painted equivalent, which I was very happy with, and it's funny because I told Steve, and I mean this, that like he's in my head when I paint my army. Like I know he's going to be judging, and I know he's a very adept. Like Steve himself is a great artist and paints incredibly beautiful miniatures. If you've seen like his Sylvaneth army or his Doom Knights, I mean they're all just stupidly gorgeous. And I know he's like I can hear him in the back of my head whenever I'm painting. So like of like try harder, push yourself farther, don't like he's there looming over me. So it's good. It's good to have that kind of thing to push yourself toward.
Yep. He's the one that like him and then you were the ones that pushed my my Volkites to do the freehand on all the skin pattern.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, so at any rate, the exciting thing that I want to touch on real quick here is that Steve is actually going to grow the Holy event some. So like they've been relatively smaller events
at 30 and
40, 40 people. Yeah. I think he's going to increase both of those. He's still looking at exactly what those numbers amount to. But the point is there will be more space in the first one for 2019 is already booked. But the Holy Havoc for 2019 and the Holy Wars for 2020 and so on will be bigger events. So because there's more 60 space
for one of them.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I won't hold him to a number because he's got it. Like obviously there's a lot of planning to do there, right? Like tables and all that kind of stuff. But at any rate, my really honest call out would be if you can get to one of these events, you should do it. It is such a unique, positive experience. There you go. Okay, Steve just said 30 teams for Holy Havoc in 2019. Well, there you go. I'll trust him. So that's awesome. And I do want to give a shout out here to Tom. It just got mentioned in the comments by LLV, but I'll mention it again. That Tom donated. So we've all seen the Hellfort stack that Tom had behind him. Tom was nice enough to bring all of that stuff to Holy Havoc, and he donated it all to Steve to make more tables with. So I'm excited to see the Brass Fortress of Khorne get its own table. So there you go. So I am just glad to see that stuff will actually get painted, Tom. That's the nicest thing about you did.
I am glad that you didn't think I would make sure it all got painted. Well, it is all going to get painted and assembled, and it's going to get played on, just not by me. No, when I was buying that stuff, I had a vision for like an entire board that was a fortress. And I just realized that like even if I paint and built that in my basement, like it wouldn't make sense for me to take it to events. Like it would be like to bring a single board like this because it would be so unlike all the other boards. And it would really stand out in standard tournament play, and it would just be difficult. And you know, there are only really one type of event that it would really fit in, and that would be amidst like the other events, tables at like Holy Wars. And so I just realized that if anybody was, if it would have a home, it would have a home at something like the Holy events. And I have a changing schedule this year, so I can't make Holy Wars. And so that's just not a project. And I didn't know when I would even be able to prioritize the project. And so I just felt like Steve has done such a great job with all the events that I felt like he would do a good job with something like this. So I turned it over to him.
There you go. So, yeah, it's out. Somebody asked a question where it is. It's outside Chicago, which is west of Chicago. Obviously, you can't be east of Chicago. It's not an underwater tournament. We're not playing with the Ideneth. And I just want to shout out Rancor in the comments who said he's making the jump to AOS with the Seraphon Battle Force. That's sweet. That's actually a really good box to get going with them because it's got like 6 Ripper Dipper Doos in it. It's got a laser dino. It's got like the bigger dino, whatever his name is. I don't remember any of their names. I have made up names for all of them. So that's cool.
It is a good box.
You'll have fun with that. Yeah, it's a solid box. So there you go. All right. So I think that more or less wraps up our discussion this week. I can't wait for Holy Wars, and I'm sad you won't be there, Tom. Now I have to figure out when I get home. I have to figure out when I can go visit Tom for a couple days to get all my stuff. That's going to be our next challenge of how does Vince get down to Tom's house to go pick up his stuff. Yes. That'll be our next hobby road trip.
Until then, I get to play daughter on daughter action here. Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, my fig's gonna be broken all to heck and back whenever I get them. I can already tell. All right. So thank you again, Steve, for a great tournament. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say congratulations, by the way, to Vince, who took Best Painted Warhost. So at the events, there's both a team award and an individual awards. Vince took Best Warhost, so congratulations. I have his trophy over here as well for his beautifully painted daughters. If you guys haven't seen them, you can check them out on Twitter. And I was fortunate enough to be honored to take second place on my Best Warlord. So
there you go, which was a great conversion and came out really well. I liked it. I was happy to have it on the table next to me, Tom. I awesome. No way felt it was detracting from anything. So there you go. That's the
I have not put my
bar.
daughters out. Thank you. I have not put my daughters out for like doing photography. So I'll try to get those out in the next week or so if folks are interested in seeing the stuff.
I'll finally be able to share the board. In fact,
yeah.
you should take some pictures of the board with stuff on it and send it to me, Tom, or I'll wait till I get them back.
Like,
the display board was the big thing I had been working on that was in the background of like a Warhammered episode a while back on Paul's channel. That one of this previous secret projects I had been working on too many secret projects lately. Was my display board for daughters, which is a giant gladiatorial arena.
Hold on just a minute.
Do you have it handy?
I do. I'll at least show it for our viewers right now.
No, that's great. That'd be perfect. I never I think I have pictures of it somewhere, but I don't know. There you go. We'll lock on Tom here. So there you go.
Here is our board, and so you can see it's a big gladiatorial arena. What you can't see is that this was made by Playmobil, ages 2 to 4.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And so and you can actually I have the back edge of it, and so you can see like the whole area. You see some like chains and stuff like that from the shackles, and all these doors are fully operational. Something my 4-year-old has discovered when she walks by, and she's like,
"So great,
it opens."
Yes, they do. Those doors do open.
Age appropriate. Somebody that's age appropriate.
Yeah.
It was actually playing with it. 2 to 4. And so Vince did a fantastic job on the board. And our stuff looked pretty good.
It's kind of covered up, but there's a giant blood. There's a symbol of Cain in blood.
Yep.
If you zoom in, you might see a bit of it under the army. Yeah, in the center of the sand. Yeah, it's kind of hidden there, but that's the big symbol of Cain.
Yep.
And so, it was a lot of fun to make with like the blood fountains and
Vince's warlord is at the top center. You guys can see, and my warlord's off to the left, and I have a Medusa off to the right, and so it all came out. So we had some endless spells DC mixed in here, and it was fun. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I will say I didn't hate putting this together.
You're saying the board?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I was annoyed the whole time I was making it, but it was a happy annoyed, I suppose. I was painting angry and happy at the same time, so whatever. The worst part about it is I know what I want to do for the next one, for the next army, so I'm already pre-planning for that one because that's just how life is. We eventually become the thing we hate, so there's nothing else to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, hopefully, if you take daughters to NashCon or whatever, you'll be able to use the board again.
I don't know what I'll end up taking. We'll see, but it's too far away to tell.
Well, you're not doing
in August next year, so
yep, you're not doing Acon, so maybe I'm taking your board to Acon.
Sure, that's how that works. I'm going to be at Adepticon, by the way, to just to be clear with everybody.
But you're not playing at Adepticon, so you're not using your board. I'm not playing
at Adepticon, no. Correct.
No, I couldn't do that because you would be the one judging your board. And
there will be other judges, yes. I'll be paint judging this year at Adepticon, but there'll be other judges. Other people can judge you, Tom.
Yeah, indeed.
I judge you all the time already, Tom.
You do.
It doesn't really matter.
I accept your judgment.
Final shout out. Sure. I want to give one final shout out. So as people know, I'm now teaching with CK Studios next year. The first scheduled class is in Phoenixville. It's outside of Philadelphia in Pennsylvania on February 13th and 14th. We're doing the Knight Titan class. So if you're keen to learn how to paint a display quality robot, it's a great chance to hang out with me for 2 days and learn how I paint robots. So it's a 16-hour class, 2 days of 8 hours over that weekend. It's a beautiful game store that we've got it set up in. There are not that many slots left, so I wouldn't wait too long. It is a little more expensive class because it's so long. It's 16 hours, and but we're really going to pack it in. It will be well worth your time. So if you're at all interested in in sort of coming along with me on how I paint Titans and stuff like that, I'd love to have you there. So it'll be a lot of fun. The base price for the class, I believe, is $275, and then you have to supply your own robot. But there is also a deal with the class to, where you can get cheaper robots or robots from them. So yeah, And we don't care what, like, you can use different kinds of Titans if you need to buy a basic Knight Titan. The store has a deal to hook you up and stuff like that. So, and obviously Mini Stomp also always has great deals. Highly recommend Mini Stomp. So if you need a good price Knight Titan, he has a great deal on like the basic Canis Rex. So yeah, it's $275 off the top of my head. I don't have the class sheet up in front of me, but that sounds right. So there you go. Cool. Which, like I said, I know that's a more expensive class, but it is, 16 hours of 2 full days of painting. So, and it'll be fun. We'll hang out. We'll have a good time. It'll be a party. So there you go. Let's see. I think that's everything, right? I'm going to be spruiking that like every week until the class is absolutely full. So, and probably beyond. We sort of have a full, and then we have a little bit of overflow that the store said we could use if we wanted to. So we'll probably try to get all that. So but we want to get people signed up. So there you go. All right. Well, very good. I hope you all enjoyed this, Tom. It was a great time hanging out with you this weekend, man. Good tournament.
Always.
Well done, buddy.
Thank you.
Yay, we did it. Yay, the filth. It took the day. We out-filthed everyone. Boom. Yeah, all right. So with that, like I said, Tom, don't fight it. Yeah. Enjoy it. Live in it. Get all pruny in the filth, my friend. So, but for all of you out there, we thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate it. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.